Hello, and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today, as I join you or you join me, we are in the final day of our trip to Europe. Last week, I expressed that the reflection and the hike was actually done. But after the hike was done, we then took a train down to the Amalfi Coast of Italy to actually celebrate our true wedding anniversary. July 29th, yesterday, would have been, is 30 years of marriage for us. And I just believe in celebrating. I believe in the celebration of life, but also of honestly the lack of normalcy in being married for a long time. Statistically in our country, it just doesn't happen anymore. And there's no blame, there's no shame. I'm not doing anything like that. But I believe that we should celebrate the things that we accomplish. And what marriage is definitely one of them. It doesn't come easy, it's hard. There's always all summits, the climb, the descents, just like we just did on the mountain, right? And so, even though we climbed that hike for really awareness for fostering the summit, we also climbed it as a reflection of marriage, right? But I'm not on here to talk about marriage today. Today, I really want to just kind of pull apart a little bit of what I believe or what I've learned or what I have experienced when it comes to the word purpose. It's such a big, big title, big meaning. And it really creates a lot of unease in so many people because I don't know my purpose. I don't understand. How do I even begin to think about what purpose means? What was I born to do? What was I put on earth to do? But I really believe that purpose is about getting curious and having the courage to ask yourself some really simple but hard questions. Last week, you heard me really talk about reflection and what I've been able to do in reflection. You heard me hear that reflection is what's been able to give me the gift of understanding who I've always been. It's also come with a lot of tools, a lot of assistance from other people, of having the courage and the curiosity to say, but something else, but what if, or something doesn't feel right. And I think about the courage of the last few years and my pivots, my multiple pivots. And that's because of that journey of coming back to what felt so right in my soul, like coming home. And I believe when you're doing something and it feels like you're coming home, that's a really big clue. That is a really big in your face moment of, oh, okay, I feel this, I hear this, I see this. But we also have to ask ourselves, but what is my why? What is the why, the how, all the things? So when we're walking this journey, if you're at that place in life and you just like you can feel it in your soul that there's something different. Maybe it's something more, but it doesn't have to be something more. Something different. Something that lights you up from the inside. So that when you're talking about it, when you're thinking about it, people kind of gravitate towards you. They ask you questions. I want you to get curious about those things. This may or may not be a way you make a living. It doesn't have to be a way you make a living. It doesn't have to be any way. It gets to be your way. That's the beauty. Because when we go back and think about those things, when we get curious about the moments that we lose track of time, when we get curious about the things that we can just feel an energetic pull towards, we start to get some of those answers. But as I said in the last episode, if you never allow yourself quiet, if you never allow yourself the time to reflect on who you are, it will continually be that carrot you chase, or that is just far enough out of reach. It takes time. It takes a lot of vulnerability. And it takes those moments of really getting true to you. There will probably be a lot of tears, a lot more if you're someone like me. And I'm joyful and I cry. I'm sad and I'm cry. I'm angry and I cry. There's going to be a lot of confusion. I don't understand what this means. What does this have to do with anything? But it's having the curiosity to keep taking the next step, to pick up the next book, to ask the next question, to be able to say, I don't know, and I would love any advice that you may have. All of those things have to happen for you to reconnect to you. When we realize that we're chasing accolades instead of what is inside of us, somebody else's belief or value of us instead of the belief or value in ourselves, discernment comes. We're not okay. We know that there has to be a change, but that means we have to get uncomfortable, that we have to drop what is comfortable and step into something that we have no idea what it looks like on the other side. I was listening to a podcast, actually, it's Oprah's Soul Sundays. It's one of my favorite podcasts. And I'm drawing a blank on who was who was on there. It was an author, a beautiful, beautiful singer. But anyways, one of the things he said is that in order to be aligned with who you are, you have to grow, resemble, reflect, and reveal. And I left off the last podcast with those 4 words because I really wanted you to think about them. I didn't want you to know where they came from, because I think there's something very, very individual to those words for each of us. But purpose comes from growing, resembling, reflecting, and revealing. Of that, I'm sure. But those are going to look different for each of us. The power of growth is undeniable. And if we are in a place where we believe we don't need to grow, we do not need to gain any more knowledge and or wisdom, then we will stay in the cycle. And maybe that's of ourselves. Maybe that's of an opportunity. Maybe that's of our children, our spouse, our community, a statistic that we don't love. When we grow in who we are and we begin to see where our ignorance is stopping us, we gain true wisdom. This same gentleman says that there are 8 pillars of character: faith, virtue or morals. Sorry, I said morals. So virtue or morals, knowledge/wisdom, and that's where we leave the ignorance, right? We realize where we are being ignorant in our knowledge and have wisdom. Patience, self-control, respect for what is sacred, kindness, and love. And when we think about that in our purpose, I'm looking for his name right now. If you are watching this and you see me looking down, um, his name is Pastor Wintley. Wintley Phipps, and he's an author. He's a nonprofit foundation creator. He is a fabulous singer. But I believe that what he says in this is so impactful. Because when we talk about purpose, and I'm just going to use my own experience right now, as I've walked into this next chapter of life, as I've walked into something that felt so right in my world, so right in my heart, so lights me up when I talk about it. I can lose track of time when I think about all those things that I just asked you. The foundation, well, there's a two-part here. I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm gonna say our business. The business that I have created and grown has pivoted multiple times because of these pillars. Not because it's just worked out, not because I've stepped outside of what lights me up, my virtue, my morals, not because I have not had patience, right? When I talk about finances, when it comes to living in our values, I am passionate about it. I am not that bookkeeper or financial coach that's going to talk to you all about your bottom line or that your profit and loss report. Yes, we talk about them, but it's not the core, the foundation of who you are. When I realized that and I stepped into that, no matter what anyone else thought, I started leading and teaching from a completely different place. So that's when it comes to how I earn living, right? Because this can go across all barriers of your life. But when I think about the foundation, and I think about the faith I had to have to step into something that felt so much bigger than me. When I had to lead with virtue and morals that forced me to step up and say, I don't know, but I want to learn. I had to have the virtue and morals to say, this isn't right. There can be something different. When I had to understand where my knowledge ends based on ignorance and step into asking the hard questions, the vulnerable questions, the authentic questions, so that I can begin to build the wisdom, to have the patience of understanding that I don't know it all. It will not happen overnight, and it's a long game. Self-control of knowing I don't have any of the answers, to be really honest, but I get to control how I show up, how I ask, how I learn, how I ask for help. Respect for what is sacred, our children. Our children are the most sacred things in the world, and yet 20,000 children a year are left on the side of the street. That may seem harsh, and maybe it's not a complete reality, but in truth, it is a reality. Because when we say good luck, we hope you've got enough, we're leaving them on the side of the street. Kindness, acceptance, a belief that everybody is worthy, that there is hope. I think about my kindness journey when it comes to foster care and how I've completely had to change internally a belief that bio parents are at fault. My belief that addiction is a choice. My belief that generational trauma, generational cycles aren't real. My belief that inner womb trauma isn't real. my belief that people just don't want to get better. All of those things come from kindness and love being that last of the pillars of character. I'm not saying I am this high standard of character. I'm just trying to show you an example of how it is a growing, how our character, our purpose, who we were born to be is a growing journey. That if we're curious and courageous enough to keep walking in, we begin to understand. We begin to see something different than what we've always known, always been taught, always believed. And that in each of us, there is a message, a hope, a choice to change what has always been, because what has always been does not have to be what always will be. That we get to align ourselves with that of which we were born to be. And so when I think about those 4 words, grow, resemble, reflect, and reveal, for me personally, it is to grow in my faith, to grow in my courage, but to grow in my faith of God, definitely, but of myself, of my ability, of the evidence that I've already done in life, to grow in that journey, to resemble, for me, like the biggest dream to me is that when I meet my maker, I will resemble, not only resemble, I will be shaking hands with the person he created me to be. When he introduces me to that person, it'll be like a long lost love, not a total stranger. I want to resemble what I was born to be. Reflect, to constantly be asking myself, is this where you should be? Is this your why? Is this your how? To reflect upon that person and then ask myself, what is your next best self? How will you reflect that person even more deeply in this next chapter? And then to reveal, to do the work, to step out inside of the courage in spite of the fear, and then to reveal what that journey was to do. Sometimes we look and we ask ourselves, this is no way a part of who I am. This is too hard. This is too much. I cannot do this. But on the other side, we reveal the reason why. We reveal the lesson, the purpose. And when we keep working in those 4 words of growth, resemble, reflect, and reveal, we live a life that is so aligned with who we are that there's no other choice but a miracle to happen. A miracle we never knew. There is no other choice but for it to change the world. And when I say that, people are like, who are you to say it's going to change the world? You guys, if you change one person, if you give hope to one person, if you help somebody with the mindset of one person, that one person is going to then affect other people, and they will affect other people. Changing the world isn't about millions. Changing the world is about one person at a time. If you would do it for one, then do it. I hope you have a wonderful day.